Hello and welcome to Those Weird Witches.
I'm Helvella.
And I'm Rúna.
Come with us as we explore the runes and all the weirdness that comes with spirituality. Hello witchlings and welcome to Those Weird Witches, and today we're going to be talking about our first topic, which is the runes.
Specifically the Elder Futhark.
These are 24 symbols, 24 runes.
Yeah.
We'll do history first and then we'll move into the spiritual side. The runes that were used by the Germanic people, and they first appeared around 150 AD.
Yeah.
So they're originally a writing script. They were the language of the people. Now there is a lot of debate whether the runes as symbols themselves were magical or whether it was the written charm. So like if you wrote down a spell and 1,000 years later people would be debating, is the A magical or is it the whole word spell? So there's a bit of debate in the spiritual versus academic community about that. But there are historic rune charms. So there's one I know, if you draw 9 Nautha's runes, you can get rid of fever. So runes you can find them all over Scandinavia and stuff. Lots of rune stones. I've been to a museum in Oslo and I saw my first rune stone. That really had me going. That would say is a basic historical side. They're a writing script. When my first introduction to the runes was using them as a writing medium. And then it later developed into the spiritual. So what does runes mean spiritually to you, if we're moving away from historical?
For me, I see the ruins as spiritual allies, basically. Yeah. So each ruin has their own energy. It's an entity to me. Yeah. It's not just a divination tool. So
yeah, and I think that's almost backed up by historical. So there's about 3 rune poems that I know of. I know mostly the Norwegian rune poem, and as you said, each one has its own energy. So each rune is named. Each rune has its own name and a poem to go with it. So I think that's sort of, you wouldn't really write rune poems for a letter to remember it if there wasn't some sort of energy attached to it.
Like, they're spiritual allies. I can actually, befriend the ruins. I can talk to the ruins. I can build a reciprocal relationship with each individual ruin. And to me, they're also like gateways. So when you carve the ruin or you write the ruin, you are opening up the gateway to weird. You are opening up to that energy and you're calling it forth, which is why it's really important to actually know the ruins, I think, when you're carving, especially when you get like tattoos of the ruins. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you're opening up that gateway.
I can actually attest to that because I have an experience with that.
Yes,
so, back, I think I was just turned 18, so I was just able to get a tattoo. Me and my then best friend, they knew the Shadowhunter series, and so they could write in the runes too. That's how we bonded initially as friends. And so they got Yera tattooed on them because their names start with J. So they got the Harvest Rune, and I got M for my name. So I got Manas, which is like humanity, the self, reflection, evolution. And this was before I fully knew the runes had meanings to them. I knew them more so as a writing script, and I was only just starting to scratch the surface on, oh, there's something more. So when we got them tattooed, it didn't really activate at first, if that makes sense. It took time to like meld with your energy. So since there, when I got to university after maybe a year of having that tattoo, one of my goals was to find my friends, find my community, find my tribe, because I was introverted as so the community aspect, I became reflective as because I wanted to be better. I wanted to evolve. It was like I had something happen that sort of shattered my reality. Yeah. And I'm like, I need to refine myself, evolve who I am, and like figure out who I want to be.
Yes.
So there was a lot of community, a lot of reflection coming forth, and I feel like that was to do with getting the rune tattooed on my body. They sort of had ownership over me, if that made sense. I was sort of their friend. I wasn't allowed to have other friends. They were allowed friends, but I was like their property. So it was sort of a very toxic, it worked for me at the time because I was very much a listener friend and they were a speaker. So to have someone do all the talking for me, my little introvert heart was content. But once I started evolving, it came out how toxic they were.
Yes.
And they sort of planted the seed for themselves, and it just slowly got worse and worse for them. Like, they failed 2 degrees. They ended up in hospital. They had to fly home to their parents because they just weren't mentally doing very well. They lost a lot of friends, and they sort of, like Yera does, it reaps what you sow.
Yes.
So whenever I talk to people about runes, I always say that, because they're just 2 very parallel things. It showed us, as we were going through these stages after getting these tattoos, what the rune magic can look like.
Yeah.
So something as potent as tattoos, I almost feel they take time to know your energy and then pick a direction for you.
Yes.
So I've always been hesitant with the Yera. The runes are great allies,
Yes.
but they can also be great destructors. There's so much duality in them. They're very organic, they're very natural. I think the law of earth is destruction and birth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hailstorms come to break old branches so new ones can come. Wildfires destroy things so the earth can be fertile again from those ashes, and new life can come through. Winter and summer, there's no negative, if that makes sense. It's all just needed for that cycle of creation and keep going.
Yeah.
So I see the runes sort of that way.
Yeah,
as
like,
well.
Each rune is so in depth. You can't just look at a few keywords and be like, oh yes, I know the rune now.
Yeah.
Like, even when you're the one about joy and stuff,
Yeah.
like, it also has related to like madness and insanity.
Yeah.
In it as well. Really need to know the ruins and get to know them on a really personal level, especially if you start doing spell work with them instead of just divination. Just because you've done something and the ruins have allowed you to use them, it's not like, oh yes, I've got permission, so that means this is going to turn out fine. They don't care. They're just going to sit back and watch the chaos unfold.
They are natural elements. You can't really control the elements. They
Yeah.
sort of go where that energy needs to be.
Yeah, it's like, if you want to use it, fine, but take responsibility
Yeah.
for what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think that is such a unique thing about the runes, because most people get introduced to them as divination, but they're not just divination. As you
Yeah.
said, there's that magical element, and that really does separate them from tarot.
It really does.
Even in tarot, there's usually set meanings.
Yeah.
The runes, there's such duality within each rune. I think that's important to note. Like how you said, there's harmony aspect, but there's also an insanity aspect.
Yes.
And with knowing those runes, if you build enough connection with them, if you pull a rune, even if it's like, if we're talking like reversed and upright, even if it's upright, you'll get the vibe that, I should be careful with this. You learn to know it personally.
Yeah, like that's why I love the ruins so much. When I'm pulling the ruins or casting the ruins, I'm actually talking with the ruins because they have such diverse meanings. They could mean this or this in this exact same situation. So it's actually just getting that dialogue going, like, okay, what are you meaning today? And then it's also just building on your intuition and your trust within yourself. And then it really opens up the door to so much more.
I'd like to go back to that, speaking of like knowing so much more.
Yes.
You made a point of saying you can't just know the key things. I think you need to start with the key things.
You
though.
definitely do.
Like how I started was, I had 3 key meanings, and I'd do a rune pull daily and just focus on those 3 key meanings. And that helped me form a basis on all the runes. It helped me really learn them really solidly. And then I learnt from those keywords, if that made sense. I was able to put my own personal energy into them. I'll be like, okay, so what does, say, let's keep going with the Winyo. What does Winyo mean to me? It's usually comfort, happiness. One of my own like sort of personal meanings is like summertime. I think of it as that summertime abundance.
Yes.
There's fruit everywhere. I guess it's like now, it's Lunasa vibes almost, of that first harvest. There's so much abundance, you don't have anything to worry about in that sense. But then there also comes to the other side of, say, you're drinking. There's so much abundance that you can have a drink and you do something you regret. Sort of that instant drunkenness. I sort of put those together. So I think to have that personal relationship with them, you do need those key basics as a gateway.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I still use my keywords all the time. I have a book
same.
that I
Yeah.
put in all my keywords in, and whenever I'm doing a reading, I look at the keywords and they're like a little
And each
gateway,
path
they're
looks
a little
different,
spark
so-
does
And
of
there's no-
inspiration
I don't wanna
that
say
just
there's a
sends me
right
down
or
the
wrong
right
way.
rabbit
I
hole
think
to
it's okay
actually
to start with
tune
them
in
as
again,
just
and then I'm
divination.
ready to go.
Or just magic. But I think definitely doing them as divination first is tamer, if that makes sense.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a bit more of a safe approach
Yeah.
because it allows you to actually get to learn the ruins and to build that relationship, and for them to learn you as well.
That's a
Whereas
good point,
if
yeah.
you go straight into the magic,
You're demanding straight away, almost.
it is like the ruins have to open up to you. Like there's still some ruins that I'm learning
So,
and building that relationship. Like Perthrow, I know so well.
Mm-hmm.
We get along so nicely. But then we have Gebo.
Eva is one that I just haven't built that connection with too. And they
Yeah.
sort of like come at you in different ways. Like
They
I
do.
had Manas was my rune for ages, and now it's yours.
Yeah,
They just sort of like come to you when you're ready almost.
they do. You don't just have to start with divination. Like,
No,
if all you
no,
ever
no.
want to do is just divination, then just do divination. Everyone's relationship with the ruins is different.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go that depth. You don't have to build that really, really personal relationship with each ruin if that's not for
Yeah.
you.
It's like, it's almost like deity work. You can connect with some deities, but you don't
Yes.
have to connect with others. You can be, say, a Norse practitioner, but you don't have to be friends with every single deity.
Yeah.
You can invoke them for certain things or something if you have sort of like a working relationship rather than that personal connection.
Yes.
But yeah,
Like, I work really closely with Loki. I work
Yeah.
with Sigyn as well, but I don't have that really personal relationship with her. That one's more of a working relationship.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes, and it's also about like what you put into it. It's building that relationship up.
yeah, it's just what aligns, really.
It is.
And that's why like, you might have a good relationship with a deity, and then someone might have a really bad relationship with that same deity.
Yeah.
It's just where the energy flows.
It is, and
really.
it's like
And the same with the rune.
yeah, like what stage of life you're at as well. Do you have any like advice for getting into the ruins?
So when I first started, getting 3 key meanings and doing lots of cross-referencing. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot. When I first started making my 3 key, like, I made a list of 3 keywords. I went through so many sources and picked out the ones that resonated with me.
Yes.
And then I did daily pulls. I did like, what energy do I need to embody today sort of thing, or what energy do I need to focus on, or just a generalized question. And doing that allowed me to just focus on a rune one at a time.
Yes.
Because there's 24 of them, and it can be really overwhelming at first. I'd say keep it simple. I mean, everyone's different. Sometimes going head first into it works better for people, or sometimes just sort of putting your toes in this
Well,
the shallow end of the pool works.
I jump right in.
Yeah, you jumped right in. I put my toes slowly and adjusted to the cold water as I
which
went.
is fair.
But I guess my advice is, yeah, take it slow and don't be afraid to like keep going back to those sources
Yes.
and to reread. Like, I'm 12 years into my relationship with the rune, 13 years into my relationship with the runes, and I still feel like a beginner sometimes. It's okay to go through those cycles of being really heavily involved and then needing to step back and go, okay, let's just go through keywords again.
It's the organic relationship. It's an ebb and flow. It's like the tide. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're there, sometimes they're not. And just to build on what you're also saying about the daily pulls, that's a really good way to actually start building that personal relationship
Yes,
with. So you're
it
like,
so is.
that's how that ruin shows up in my life.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Keeping a diary. I have a book at home, and I wrote like a paragraph and keywords, but I also had another page for how they showed up in my life.
Yes.
So like Ingwar's, it's the seed room, it's potential and stuff. How it would always come up on days where I had a good frame of mind.
Yes.
Like when you want to do cleaning, where you want to do self-care, you put your face mask on, you listen to that music and have a little boogie. That's how that room presented itself to me.
Yeah.
Whereas for other people it could be like tying up loose ends. Okay, it's time to get that sort of done, or it's time to nurture a project or something. But it all comes down to that personal relationship.
It really does. Like for me, Isa, when I get that one, it's about diving into the research and the meditation and that sort of stuff. Whereas others, it could be you just need to take a break, or it's time to look at your boundaries again. So it's really just building that relationship.
I usually have these to come up when I need to just take a chill pill.
Yeah.
Or like, I've had it come up on a day where I had to call in sick for work.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, it told me I needed to stay home. I just needed to rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think keywords, lots of cross-referencing.
Yes, that's so important.
And seeing how they like manifest in your life is very important. I'd say those are the key things probably for building a relationship with the runes.
Cross-referencing.
Yes.
So important.
Absolutely.
Especially about like thinking about like where are you getting your information from. So what's their relationship with the ruins, and what's their ideology around just life in general as well, because we all know how some of the North spaces are. It's just about being aware, I guess.
Yeah.
And also just because that's someone's relationship or that's someone's connection, if it doesn't feel right for you, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, it doesn't mean that you're wrong, it just means that they made that connection that you haven't yet, and that's fine.
Connect one way to one friend and someone will connect another way to that same friend. It's
Yeah.
just how the energies organically align.
Yeah, and
honestly.
it's like how us with the ruins as well, we swapped the last two ruins in our orders.
Yeah. But the thing is, historically, they're both written that way.
They are.
They can be swapped over. Same with her throw and yours. Which one's the 13th? It chops and
Who
changes.
knows?
So it's just, again, it's what feels right for you. As long as you think about it and can like justify it to yourself, if that makes sense. You don't want to be like, oh yeah, Othala's the last rune because that's how everyone does it.
Yeah.
But if you think about it and go, oh, actually, Dagar's makes more sense because of X, Y, Z, then you should do what feels organic to you.
Yeah. I was just about to say that the ruins are really organic. Going back to that, it's constantly changing and they're really fluid as well. Like each ruin does have their own meaning, but it's so diverse. There's so much in each one. You can't just keep on going to the same tree, you know. There's so many branches and these new ones growing all the time that you are going to discover, and fruit and leaves and changes with the seasons as well. Like it's just, there's so much. An important thing with the ruins is also just like accepting the fact that you're never going to truly know, or just like spirituality in general. Like we're never going to truly know if it was just writing historically or if it wasn't, or we're not going to know what ruin is actually meant to come last. And we just have to accept that we're not going to know some things, and that's okay.
That is absolutely okay. We don't need to take what our ancestors, or what we think our ancestors did, as gospel. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Like, so doing what works for you is, and what feels right for you, and if it's giving you results, why change?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
As long as you're respectful about it.
Yeah, like you don't have to do something that someone else has done to validate your own practice.
Absolutely.
I think that's what it comes from. People don't feel like their practice is valid because they're not sure if that's how it used to be done. And something doesn't have to be old to have power or to have meaning. It's all about you and your relationship with the ruins.
Everyone has their own medicine and power that they can give to the world, and it's all about tapping into that uniqueness and that authenticity of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's when it really shines out.
I want to build off some stuff about different ways to connect with the ruins, because you've done really the surface, tipping your toes in about like how you,
and then slowly submerging in.
For me, I just dive straight in, like to do like artwork for each of the ruins. So I'm sitting there, I'm chanting the ruin, like Feihu, Feihu, Feihu over and over again as I'm doing the artwork. I'm not like painting something specific because I use watercolor. It's just, this is the color I'm called to. Let's just see the shapes and see how everything melds together. That's helped me a lot because I don't think in words. So while I love my keywords and while they're really helpful, I think and I work in feelings. That's how I connect, and I express that through art. So that's how I've connected with the ruins.
Way to do it,
yeah.
But it's all what works for you.
It is.
Like, I did a 24-week rune cycle, so I spent 1 week focusing on one rune, whether that is just meditation or writing down keywords. But it's great to hear different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do artwork, you can create different things, because me personally, I feel feelings are the first language we ever learn.
Yes.
Babies don't care what you're saying. but how you make them feel.
Yeah.
So I think that's such a almost a primal expression of the runes, what you're doing. Thank you for coming along with us, little weirdlings, and
We'll see you guys for Fehu next time.
see you then.